Good morning, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful time. I have two questions for you. The first question is, why are you here today? Think about it for 2 seconds. It's easy. I have another question for you, and I will get back to this question in about 12 minutes. The second question is, what is your purpose and mission in life? This is a bit more difficult, right? Think about it, let it flow, and enjoy the next 20 minutes. My presentation is about scaling generative AI from the core of the business. This is a challenging task for everyone, and we've learned from Henrik and other speakers how difficult this is. But when you are moving and when you are working with the technologies of today and you try to make progress, you always feel the difference between yesterday and tomorrow when you make success, but very few people make success. So I want to tell a story about how to use AI differently. And the assumption here is that generative AI is an impressive technology. We all know that. So looking back 3 years from now, it was very little we've had. And now it's everywhere, in products, in our work environment. So it's in a technology that is really scaling like hell. But do we scale the business value equally? I don't think so, because we scale the technology, and we know we want to have the latest generative AI, it could be ChatGPT, whatever, because it's so much better. But when you look at what these technologies do for the business, the value we create is not following the pattern of the development of technology. So how good is it making a picture for a power presentation, a better picture or a much better picture with the next version? That's not what we want to do, right? But how can we work and scale business value? I have some experience from the company I work with, Green Cargo. We're running trains. It's a boring business. You don't expect a company like us to be at the forefront of AI, but I'm going to tell you some experiences from what we've seen and what we've done. And that could eventually help you to rethink the way you look at AI when you want to apply it from the core of your business. So I have a major concern that most of the time fragmentation is causing problems. Fragmentation is about the skills, the technologies, the systems you run, the infrastructure, the vendors, and whatever you have. So fragmentation makes it very difficult to bring things together. So if you want to build AI into your business, and if you want to do that from the core, you need to have a foundation. But most of the time it's very fragmented. You have your legacy, and then you find all of these vendors in this wonderful place, and they all have cool technologies, and everyone promises to solve your problems. So add all of those technologies, you still have fragmentation. How do you make it work together? It's a key question. It's very difficult to do. And then the question is, how can you use AI to scale business value? Is anyone in the room who has an answer? I try to give one, but that is probably not the only one. It's one answer out of many. But this black slide goes back to what Henrik presented yesterday morning. So first, he said, invention times adoption is innovation. And innovation has no value. Value comes with how you use the innovation, and if you suddenly can scale it, reuse it, and make it available to your customers, to your people, to the workforce, to everyone who should work with the innovation and should deliver a value from it. I want to add the second formula, Henrik. Henrik, listen. This formula is not to question your one, but I want to talk about scalability of innovation. So the second formula is innovation times foundation means scalability. So if you bring in innovation, you have a foundation, then you can scale. Some of you might think, what's he talking about? I'll give you an example in a few minutes, okay? But do you agree that it's very difficult to scale innovation if you don't have a platform, if you don't have a foundational infrastructure to do that? I hope you agree. Decoupled infrastructures, you know what that is? That is really the microservice capability up to a platform. It's all decoupled. It's all individual, autonomously available in your infrastructure, in your architecture. A decoupled infrastructure is so critical and crucial to build the foundation for scalable AI that if you don't have it, even the best solutions would not help you to scale things. And surprisingly, these decoupled architectures are rare. I talked to a very senior architect from Ericsson yesterday, and he said, we don't see those architectures. It's very difficult to find them, and it's very difficult to build them. Having people with the skills and the power and the idea and the vision to do this is very rare. In my experience, when I joined Green Cargo as a CIO CDO 5 years ago, we had nothing. We started from zero. We did not even have application development in-house or agile working methods. We had no platforms. We were not thinking about AI. We were just sitting there and trying to figure out what to do with all of the crap that we've had. So it was all fragmented. It was all out of date. Technologies not working, not integrated, and just not making sense. We had vendors. We've done outsourcing at this time, and nothing was working. So we had a chance to look at things differently. And when we've done this journey, we found a way to use our investments in solving business problems. But every time when we tried to solve a business problem, we did not look for a SaaS application. We tried to find a platform that could help us to solve the problem, invested in the platform, then tried to solve the problem, because then the platform could help us to solve many other problems. And when there was no platform to solve, we tried to find the next platform. So we built a number of platforms over the years without the business knowing, without ever saying this, without ever mentioning it. So the idea was to build a decoupled architecture from the ground with very strong principles in the design to make sure that when you develop the architecture for your business, to make it scalable one day. It is not coming the first day, it's not coming the second day, the second week, the third week. It takes years. It's a long journey. And you need to have a lot of discipline in applying those principles unbroken. If there are other architects in the room, would you replace me and say, Ingo, let's talk right stuff now, or would you agree? Will you agree? Thank you. Thank you. So at least we have 1-to-1 agreement in the room that this makes sense. But how to overcome this dilemma? What would you do? Listen to me, what we've done at Green Cargo, that's one way. So when you are in a company, I mentioned Ericsson, if this is such a complex business, you cannot just restart from the ground. It's a completely different setup. It's a completely different challenge. So you cannot copy what we've done at Green Cargo. That's not what I'm recommending. I'm just telling you what we've done, right? So it's a very complex journey, but you need to have a strong vision of what you want to achieve. And the idea here is that you follow 4 primary objectives of scalable systems. I wrote a book. That was my first book that I released about 2 years ago. And that was based on the learnings from what we've done at our work. And the first objective, you can add a lot of objectives to those that I'm suggesting now, but they are my primary objectives of scalable systems. The first one is to balance and scale strategic investments. And that's for your infrastructure. If you do that, that's exactly what I told you a minute ago. You can build those things sequentially, and then you can work from that. The second objective is to leverage full digital business resilience. And the thing here is that there's a difference between digital and business resilience. And if you are not digitally resilient, no business ever is going to be resilient anymore. Would you agree? Because nearly all business today are digital. And if your digital infrastructure is not resilient, you can't change it overnight, you can't add or augment new disruptive technologies, you have difficulties. CEOs would probably argue, they would say, if I manage the next supply chain problem, I'm having a resilient business. But eventually not. evolve innovation from the core of the business. So if you really make it to work, that innovation comes from the core, you can do great stuff. And the last one is to augment and scale volatile and future technologies. This is the generative AI stuff. These are the very distinctive, complex technologies that are coming out of the blue now and just making us very busy. Stuff that is difficult to implement and sometimes difficult to understand, also for techies. And how would you expect the business to understand talking about generative AI and graph knowledge and these kind of things when most IT people don't understand? So get those things together is not easy. At Green Cargo, we prepare to scale generative AI from the core of the business, and we actually now preparing for the launch of a digital twin of our core business model in real time. So all the business information you can think of is in a graph database, a graph knowledge database from Neo4j. They are here on the Hyperight booth. You can visit them if you want, but it's not a promoted event, just they are great. They're great. Don't know what I said now, great. But what you could do with this technology is you could build a digital twin where all the customer data, all the employee data, all the data of our wagons, the locomotives, the infrastructure, our pricing information, whatever the business needs to run our trains is in that system, and it's building a digital copy of whatever we do in real time. And when we've done this in a sandbox environment and now preparing for the project. So this is a very new way of using generative AI really from the core based on the infrastructure we've built over years without knowing these days when we started that we're going to be in that situation one day. And can you think that this conceptual approach is possible to apply to every business? If one of you would say yes, I would be very happy. I give you an example that is possible. My answer is potentially yes. You can disagree, but you can disagree with me. This is absolutely fine. And I urge you to disagree because, there's no just one way that's right. Never ever. But I want to tell you a story about a global unsolvable problem which also is a very humanistic and private problem. It's about people, and I want to get back to the question I asked you in the very beginning. What is your purpose and mission in life? You remember? Have you found an answer? Are you searching for it? Most people search for their entire life. I was in a situation 20 years ago with my son being born with a very rare genetic disease or condition. He would never be in your situation. Never, ever. He would never be able to have a self-conscious approach, understand who he is. He could not come to this place. He could not learn. He could not talk to someone. He could not socialize. Never, ever. And there are many people like him out there. We had a respectful conversation. You're sitting here. You have your challenge, as everyone has his challenge, but it's a very difficult situation. There's no technology helping people. There's very little use of AI from a humanistic perspective. And my second work and book that I worked with in my head for 10 years started to become more clear for me the last couple of years when working with Green Cargo. And that's how I try to apply the learnings from there to address a global humanistic problem. And it's also about fragmentation. And I also want to use a reference, Anders Abtek, a PhD with AI and quantum computing. He's working in that field for 30 years. He's very recognized in Sweden, Goran, I think you can confirm that. And he said, this is the most humanistic AI application I've ever seen. Not talking good about myself, but the vision is quite strong. And the technology is there. The thing is that today we don't use it. People like my son will never ever say a word. They will never ever make a decision. They will never ever move. But the technology is there to help and make this next step for those people who are concerned. But that's also for people with degenerative diseases like Alzheimer. That could be a stroke that could hit you one day and you lose your autonomy. So I'm talking about a challenge, making AI-centric assistive technologies accessible, affordable, and adaptable. The adaptable part is very important because everyone is unique. The affordable part is very important because you need to be able to pay for it. Like a Spotify costs a bit more expensive eventually. But accessible so that it's accessible for everyone who has a mobile phone and connected to the internet. This technology is a holistic thing. It's different to what we find today. And the core concept relies on digital twin and collaborative agents. So building a digital twin that knows everything about the person it's designed for. Having agents out there that could be systemic agents, a system from Försäkringskassan, that could be a person, the loving caregiver, like I am a father to my son, so I would be an agent, I would be digitally connected to him at any time, and AI would do all the work to make sure that this is a holistic thing that could be addressed, and it's not just a fragmented problem that will be solved. So the technology is there, and it needs a horizontal scalable infrastructure to have hundreds and thousands and 10,000s and hundreds of thousands of these digital twins to run on. This is the vision. This is a complex thing, and it all builds on, for those of you who is into AI, can you just show me with your hand who is into AI? 3, 4, 5, there must be more. Okay, you are triad, I agree. That's okay, I can accept that. Semantic, agentic, generative capabilities together build something which I called semagentive, a capability of AI that really helps to bring all of those forces together. And when you combine them and you use a platform that gives you the ability to scale, you can do amazing things. Are you with me? Empower human autonomy for those who need and deserve technology the most. This is my mission. If I can solve this mission, I have twin sons. I solved 2 problems in my family. And the day when I will not be there to take care of my son, I know that there will be something that will protect him. There will be something technology likewise that could do part of my job, part of my work. So I could leave over this responsibility to my other twin son, which is a difficult thing to do. But, when the technology is there, we should try to use it responsibly. We should think about the ethics and everything else. And I've put all of these thoughts together. I wrote a new book, the second book in my life. And the first book I wrote to learn how to write. The second book is the book I really wanted to write. That was in my head for 10 years. It took me 2 years to write. It was the most sophisticated intellectual challenge of my life. But when you have a purpose in life, and when you have a mission in life, it's not a big deal to get out of bed on a Sunday morning, on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock to write, to explain what you want to do, because it's so difficult to explain. So, and you have also problems, and I had those problems myself, to understand what I wanted to achieve. And when I was writing, it became more and more clear. It was an interesting learning for myself. I was intellectually not prepared for that, but now I've gone through a process of thinking and learning, and hope to find support for getting these things done. So it's available on Amazon, but there's not a point. I hope to find the one who's reading it and wants to make a difference in the world. That's what my mission is for this book. And to share this with those who are first, we're going to do an official signing today, because the book is just launched a couple of days ago. It's here in this place, and thank you, Goran, for your support in that. So it's amazing. It will be just right there at the entrance to this room here. So 10:15, for those who will be first, you will get a copy, and make sure that you don't just want to collect the book, come with a purpose. I would appreciate this. Goran, listen, I love you because, thank you for 10 years, data innovation. This is great stuff. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and wish you a wonderful and continued scene. Thank you.